I know it's been a minute since you've heard from me. And the reason isn't that I ran out of things to say, because I have a lot to say. The real reason is that I was doing something that I'm always telling you to do. And I was making this season breathable, intentionally pursuing this season as a breathable season. And today I'm going to tell you exactly what that looked like. So tune in, because that's what we're going to talk about. Welcome to another episode of the Catch Your Breath podcast. And this is the place for moms who are ready to stop suffocating under the weight of it all, especially homeschooling. And you're ready to start building a homeschool life that you can actually breathe in. I'm Inga, and I'm so glad that you're here today. But before we get into it, I have to check in with you. And it's been a minute, and I hope you've missed it. But how are you doing? How has your summer been so far? Are you taking a summer even? And most importantly, as you move into all the summer bucket list, have you taken a moment to catch your breath? Well, if you haven't, this is that moment. So let's do it together. So if you're new here, this is where we breathe in slowly for 4, we hold it for 6, and then we breathe out slowly for 4. So let's do that. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do it one more time, because I know I need it. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, have you had an opportunity to really fill those lungs completely up and let them out? Yes? All right, let's get into it. So over the past several weeks, there has been a lot that's been going on, and it really started the end of April, where we had to close out our co-op and just ensuring that, as you do the award season and programs and all that stuff, that we make sure that that looks well. And as you start to bring in the new year by finding out what families are returning, welcoming new families, finding new families, like all that fun stuff. And can I just say, one of the things that I'm always surprised at, and I understand it, but it's always surprised, is how early co-ops are registering people. So like you have to make decisions in many of the co-ops here by February. By February, you got to know. And so I feel behind. I've always felt behind with our co-op, and that the mindset around it is, I know that yes, you want peace of mind and knowing what you're going to do for the next year. But a lot of times you are smack dab in the middle of this year and you need to finish it. And you're just like, I can't even think about it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to go to open houses and all of that. And so for me, I've not wanted to overwhelm moms. And so we've made our registration date and open houses and all of that later, so that people have more time to breathe through the rest of the year and then start. But I know that has been, in some cases, stressful for some parents, because, there's that FOMO that happens where if another co-op is closing their registration, you are like, let me go ahead and do it, because if not, I'm going to miss out on that. And so that was an aside, but that has been something that can be a lot and a little bit stressful as you're trying to like get that done. Even for me, the on the other side of trying to make it happen, but then also with all of the other places saying like, you can do this by February. And then we're moving into March and April saying, okay, now you get to breathe and make the decision. So anyway, that was just a little Inga thing. Just went on a tangent. Forgive me, but that's where I am. And then huge in May was graduation, and it was beautiful. And so really planning that for my child and with family, and just taking a moment to sit with that accomplishment that he has made, but also that I have made. Because, when you first start this, depending on where you're in the journey right now, a lot of times when you first start it, you are thinking about that. Even though you're in the midst of all of that, you're thinking about at the end, will he have enough? Will I have done enough? Will he be ready for college if that's what he wants, or adulthood and all of that? And so sometimes when you start it and you feel that, but in the middle of it, when you're having those hard days and you're having all that stuff go on, you're just like, there is no way. I don't even know why I thought that I could do this. And so to finally get to the other side of that, it is an emotionally charged season. And it's good in that you're able to see that, but it's also bittersweet because now you really, for most of us are at that test of like, okay, now we're really going to see. This is where the rubber is going to meet the road. I don't know if that's what the saying is, but you're just like, okay. And there's a lot of joy, but can be a little bit of nervousness, and there's some sadness too, because it's the end of you really being his teacher in that way. And so I wanted to be fully present for that, which I was. And I wanted to make it special for him, for me, for our family. And I was excited about it. It was even better than I thought it was going to be, honestly. And I have to say that even as I think through what I've been doing, I'm telling you that the pillars that we talked about in a breathable homeschool have been key. Support's probably been one of the biggest ones right now through this season, is that I could not have done any of the things and all these things I'm going to list without support. So the support of my neighbor who helped me with making sure that this graduation party went off well and that the ceremony, was amazing, was the support of some of the people from the co-op, and just support. It's so needed. It's, when I thought about doing it in the very beginning, I was like, I cannot do this because I feel like I'm going to just drop details. I'm going to drop some of the balls, and support was everything. Absolutely. And I have to tell you too, we're going to talk about the pillars just because, like I said, I wanted to make this whole season breathable, and definitely I had to be able to simplify some things and say, okay, you want to do all these things, but what's the simplest way you can get to the goal that you're trying to get to? And I had to be flexible. So things that didn't happen or look the way that I thought they were going to look, or if, we were coming up against something, I had to be able to pivot and be flexible. So all the pillars just kept on showing up over and over again. And then straight from that graduation, where it was a beautiful weekend and we had my family come and all of that, went straight into the NCHE conference, where I had the privilege of presenting 2 workshops. And one was on margin, funny enough, and the other one was on flexibility. And I have to tell you that standing in those rooms, looking at the faces of the homeschool moms just like me who were nodding along and asking questions, it truly was one of the most confirming experiences that I've had doing this work. It always is. I actually love when I have an opportunity to speak in front of people. Now, I love talking to you on this podcast, obviously, but it's a blessing to me. It fills me up to see the faces, to hear the questions, to have the conversations. And I would love to be able to just talk to you and see your face, because that helps me to know how what I'm saying is affecting you, but also it gives you an opportunity to ask questions. So let me just say, if you have questions when I'm talking about things, please send me an email at hello@ingamasick.com. That actually fills my heart up, and it gives me an opportunity to feel like we're having this conversation when I'm here talking to you. And so that was huge. And then after the NCHE conference, I did a mental health conference. And in the middle of all of this, I was getting ready for the first annual Homeschool Moms Brunch that was happening 2 weeks after the NCHE conference. And before that, actually, they had a graduation dinner and program at our church for the weekend. So moved into that. And I think that was the easiest because I didn't have to do anything. I just could show up. But then getting ready for that brunch was huge because it was something that I had wanted to do ever since I had gone to the conference about 2 years ago and talked about celebration and saw the transformation that happened, saw shoulders relax, saw the tears, saw how people were experiencing that and knew that it was key. And so wanted to do it, and I couldn't have done it without support. So really putting that in place allowed me to do that. And it was everything that I could have ever imagined. And I'm going to do an episode on that because I want you to be able to feel it. I want you there at the next one because we have committed to doing it yearly because of what happened in that room with those 25 women. And I know the impact. I've seen it in my life, and then I've heard it from other moms, and then I saw it that day. So I know that it is impactful. And so I don't want to get into that right now because I have to tell you about that because it is, you know how like you have a belief about something and you just know it, that you know it, that you know it, but it's what you know. And so you think it's going to be for other people. And so you want to do it, and then you do it, and you're like, absolutely, this is. And that changes everything because you realize that the impact that it's had in your life, it's having on other people's lives. Okay, well, what happened there. So when I tell you that it's been a season out of all of that stuff, I mean it. And I want you to hear this because as I was going through all of that, and it wasn't even a flurry of busyness where I was overwhelmed and exhausted because I had already set my mind that, okay, these are the things that are coming up. This is how we're going to do it. And I want to make this breathable because all of these things are things I want to be present for and I want to enjoy. I want to be present for my son's graduation and I want to enjoy it. And I want to be able to look back on the memories of this time, of this event, of this thing, and not remember the stressfulness and the, oh my goodness, and all that. And obviously there's that sense of urgency and you got to get the stuff done. But I wanted to be present and enjoy it. And so for me, one of the things that I made a decision about during this season was through all of that stuff, that I was going to enjoy all of the pieces, that I was going to be present, that I was going to be there. And then I had to decide, all right, so if that's the case, then I need to be present for these things. You have to simplify, and simplify for me sometimes means subtraction because I needed margin, the space to be present and be still in the midst of that. And so I had to say, what are the things that I can subtract or press pause? And recording was one of those things. Recording this podcast, which is hard for me because I love talking to you and encouraging you. But I knew that I wouldn't truly be able to give my all to recording and all the other things. And so that was one of those things that I had to say, okay, I'm going to press pause on that. And then one of the other things that I had to press pause on and simplify very much so is the way we did dinner and breakfast and all that stuff. And I know that that sounds like, okay, but for real, as a homeschool mom, you know that cooking every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner could really be something that takes up all of your time and it feels like a whole thing. And so I made sure that there were things in the fridge. When I did cook, I tried to make sure that there was more than enough so that they could eat that. And for breakfast, make sure that the fridge was stocked and say, okay, guys, I need you to be able to choose your breakfast, choose your lunch, try to make sure I have some healthy things in there. But I needed to take the pressure off of me that I didn't have to feel like I had to cook a full meal for our morning time and then for our dinner. And that made it simple and that made it sustainable during that season. And most importantly, it made it breathable. The other thing I looked at, what could I simplify, was worship. So a lot of times we do a devotion book with hymns and a bunch of different things and multiple resources, and I try to make it feel a certain way. But this time we just followed our church's simple Bible reading plan, and we just did that one thing. And then we talked about what did we get from out of that. And I had to remind myself that it didn't have to be elaborate for it to really matter in that moment, and that we are still taking that time to set apart and get into the word, but there weren't a bunch of other things. And I believe that sometimes the things that need to get done, like our time with God, like our devotions, like our family worship, don't get done consistently because they feel too complex and they feel like, how are we going to get this done? And so just setting aside that 15, 20 minutes, not forever, but in a season that you still are making the intentional time with God, with your family, can be everything. So I had to do that. And in thinking about support, the other thing I did was lean on my kids. I looked at our conference schedule and I told them, I need your help at this time, and this is what I need from you. And I had some honest conversations about what I needed, about what was needing to happen. And I asked for help instead of just trying to absorb it all or cover it or hide it from them. I needed them to see, hey, I need this time. And then even in the midst of all of that, one of the things I did, which is very hard for me, I planned something for, first it was for me, then it ended up being for our family, but then it it landed on for just being me and my daughter doing it. And it was hard to think about that little getaway part at first because I was like, well, I got this to do and when's that going to fit? But reached out once again to a friend and I was able to schedule that time away and determined that it was needed and determined it wasn't going to be at first when it was just going to be me. I was like, well, I can go over there and get my mind right and get some plans out and all of that. But it ended up being not something that I needed to do. I didn't need to plan anything. I didn't need to produce anything. It was just time to rest and breathe before I moved into the next thing and the next season. And it was simple because it didn't need to be complex. I didn't plan a whole bunch of stuff. Just the plan was to go and breathe. And I'm not even a beach person, but it was perfection. The beach was amazing. And to not hold myself to a long list of what we needed to do or what. And the Airbnb that we stayed at had everything you needed. So and it said you could just bring your clothes and yourself and show up. And that's what we did. And it was perfection. So if you ever need one at Carolina Beach, let me know. And I highly recommend this one. And that was so needed, so calming. And I was able to do it without any guilt. Didn't take any laptops, didn't even take my calendar. And it was just perfect. Just simply sitting, hanging with my daughter, talking, listening. That was it. So I want to say something to you about when we have seasons that have a lot of things, that sometimes a season feels hard, but we feel guilty about the season feeling hard because we're like, these are all good things. So why does it feel so like it's strangling me? Like I really can't even catch my breath. And it's a lot of times because it's a lot of things. So recognizing, that's why I believe that normalizing what is going on with you is so key to living a breathable life, to living a life where you have a rhythm that works, is because we have to normalize, okay, I got a lot of things on my plate right now and a lot of responsibilities or whatever it is. Like we're just saying that. But then to be able to say, all right, so pause. After I admit that piece, what do I need? And I believe in order for this to be successful, you need 4 things. You have to ensure that you have margin. And margin is just that white space. You got to have some room to breathe. You have to have room to expand. You have to have room to be able to do the next thing, which is to have flexibility. If you don't have room there, if you don't have margin, you can't really be flexible. Because if you think about it, I always think about flexibility as your pants with elastics versus your jeans. If you have, especially skinny jeans once they came out, now jeans have a little more flex. But back in my day, jeans did not have, my son say, every time you say back in my day, it makes you sound old. But it's true. Back in my day, jeans were, remember you saw the commercials of them trying to like, pull it up? Jeans were, that's it. That you fit into them the way you fit into them, and that was it. Now, as you wore them more, they may have gotten a little more loose, but there was no stretch in that. There was no movement. So there wasn't a lot of, I'm going to eat a lot or I'm going to do a lot. You weren't going to go do yoga or exercise or run or whatever in your jeans for the most part, unless they were baggy, because they were a little constricting. They were restrictive. They didn't have room. But if you had elastic, you had more space to have life happen, to grow a little few inches, lose some more inches. And so that's what I think about with that flexibility and margin, that they go together, because you need the space to adjust in the middle of a season that's very busy or very hard. Because when you're in the middle of those seasons that are very busy or very hard, what can happen if you don't have margin and you don't have flexibility is you start to feel like, either you made the wrong choice, you're failing at the things that you need to do, it's too much, and you start to say, okay, I need to really tap out of everything. And that's where like our anxiety grows, our stress grows, all of that. So we have to make sure we have margin. We have to make sure we normalize that we have a lot on our plate, or that things are hard. Then we have to make sure we make intentional space in our life. We got to make intentional margin. Then we have to make sure that we are flexible. So you have to have the margin in order to be flexible, but then you have to practice being flexible. So you want to think about how you give some stretch there, and that you have that room and that you're able to pivot easily. And then are you thinking about all those things that are hard and all those things you have to do? A lot of times you got to simplify. And simplify does sometimes mean subtraction, but it also can just mean reducing the amount of steps or the amount of things or the complexity of the thing, simplifying it so that it's super and easy. And as I was thinking about all the things that I wanted to do, and I'm grateful that the vision that I had really came to fruition. And so I was able to see that. But in thinking about, okay, we need to do this, that, and the third for the graduation, I had to simplify it. It's like, okay, let's do that instead of this. And I love the support, which is the last pillar, because I was able to talk to people and they were able to say, okay, could you do this instead and still get this vision? And you have to have the right support in your life, because in the past, people would say, oh, no, you can't do that. And I would always be like, okay, I guess I can't do that. But the right support that people had this time would say, okay, but what about if you did this? Or, you know what? A simple thing. Can I just tell you a simple thing? At the place where we had the graduation party, at our church, the church that we did it at, they had bulletin boards that had a whole bunch of different things in the room. And the lady that was helping me and my niece and my sister were like, you got to cover up these bulletin boards. And so they were like, well, what are you going to do to cover up? And I was like, oh, I guess I was thinking I could get some, I don't remember what the thing I was saying, but I was trying to explain to them. And I was like, we can get that and we can cover it here and we could do that. And it was going to be a little bit complex. But in my mind, there was the vision of like, okay, but that would cover it up. And my niece said, why don't you just get some tablecloths and cover it up? And I was like, tablecloths? That's not going to look good. And she's like, yeah, what if you just did, like they have graduation tablecloths, you just put that on there. And I could not see the vision. But they said, as support does, and simplify. Okay, you go and do whatever you had to do, because as we were setting up for the party, it was the graduation rehearsal. So I had to go to that and then come back to the party before the graduation the next day. And she said, I think it would just be easy and simple if you just got, I think there were 5 bulletin boards, 5 tablecloths, put it up, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't see the vision, but she went and did it. It was perfect. When I tell you that it was perfect, it was perfect. Simplified. Support and simplified, because she was able to show me how, let's just make it easy. And so I want to tell you that support piece is key, but I believe all of them are key. And I don't believe this is a magic formula. So when I tell you about these pillars, it's not like, and then everything's going to be perfect and easy, but it is going to make it breathable, because you still are going to have to do the thing. So this does not take away the things that you have to do. So the graduation took energy. The conferences, they took the preparation. The brunch planning took time. The co-op transition and all the things that we needed to do with that took the mental load. And none of that disappeared. But I had a framework that I was intentional and purposeful about doing. And It helped me ask the right questions. It helped me to look for the right people. And the beginning of it was, okay, I got all this stuff to do because it looks like a lot when it's on paper. But then you go straight to the questions. Where can I add margin? What can I simplify? Where do I need to be flexible? Who do I need to ask for support? And I kept on going back to that because I wanted to make sure I was practicing what I preach. And I was like, well, does it? I believe it helps, but I'm like, I want to be intentional about it. Not just so I can come back and tell you, but because I want to live that. And those questions kept me from going under. And I believe that that was why I could come out of that season, still have joy, still tell you about how much amazingness I had in the middle of the busyness. And for me, that's a breathable life. It is not a life without the hard things. It is not a life without being busy. It's a life where you know how to breathe through the things that are happening, that you are intentional about doing it. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about that just to let you know where I've been and what I have confirmed in my mind with all of this. If I would say one thing that I was the biggest thing that has always been the most challenging for me is the support pillar, because I know that I don't like to bother people and I feel weird asking people, and I don't, like I've asked people in the past and then learned later on that it really bothered them and that I was bothering them, and they were upset with me. And so like coming out of that had made me really nervous about asking, because I'll just do it myself. But I was committed to not living that kind of life. And I'm so thankful to God. And I prayed about it, consistently praying about like doing these pillars for me is not of my own will. It's of praying through and saying, okay, what is most important, which is how I came to the pillars. And then asking God to help me in each of them, to know what I need, to know when I need it, to know how to pursue it, and to know who can help me in being able to implement that. And so that was the intentionality for me. And I wanted to be able to tell you that because I made that commitment to myself in the very beginning. And anytime it started to feel a little overwhelming, I had to go back to asking those questions. And then afterwards, I was like, thinking about all the other things that I want to talk to you about, I was like, I just wanted to tell you that. I want to really tell you that these pillars work. I wanted to tell you where I've been, why I've been MIA. I want to also, if you needed permission to remember to subtract some things, pause some things, put some things down for a little bit, it doesn't have to be forever, but it can be a situation where you say, this is what I'm going to do. And so what's your OTFT? What's your one breathable thing for today? Before you start planning for next year, before you open the curriculum catalog or you make the schoolroom Pinterest worthy or the Pinterest board, or you map out your fall schedule. And I know that some of you that you're listening right now, you may be listening right now thinking, I've already done that. I'm already knee deep in it. But I just want to ask you to pause for just a second and ask yourself one question. What do I need right now? Not in August or September when you're starting back the school year, but right now, this summer. Because the truth is, and you know this as much as I know this, the summer can slip right through your hands and you can spend the whole thing being the activities director for your children, and you're running them through the bucket list, keeping them busy, making the memories, doing all the things. But then you arrive at your August or your September and you realize that you didn't stop and breathe, that you were doing all the things and you missed the space that you needed to refresh, to recharge, to renew before you started the school year. So here's what I want you to sit with. Do you need to build some margin this summer? Do you have some white space on your calendar? Or have you already filled every single week and day with something? Because margin doesn't have to be a vacation that you go away. It can be a morning where you don't schedule anything. It could be a week where the kids have a simple list where they do the summer of something, where they read something, they make something, they build something, they do something outside. And then you step back from being the entertainment coordinator. And it could be simple, it could be low pressure, it could be just your room to breathe. Or maybe you need to simplify. So is your summer already too complex? Are you trying to maintain too many things because you've got all the camps and all the activities and all the things? Well, what is one thing that you could scale back or set down? And it doesn't have to be forever. It could be just for this summer season. It could just be for a couple of weeks. And it would allow you to get some of your energy back. Or maybe it's flexibility that you have to practice building in your backup plan before you need it. Can you decide in advance before the rest of the summer is up that if something doesn't work, you're going to do this instead? So that when the plans change, because inevitably things change or they don't go the way that you expect them to go, that you're just adjusting instead of unraveling. Or maybe what you need most right now is the thing that I needed most during this season, and that's support. And support doesn't have to look like, can you help me do something? It could just be a conversation that you have with a friend that is an encourager. And sometimes for me, it's even me encouraging someone else because that fills me up. So just checking in to see how somebody's doing and then encouraging them. But if you're not at that place where you can give the encouragement and be the encouragement, it might just be reaching out to someone to tell them what's going on. It might be asking them for help in a very specific or practical way. It could just be telling them how much you miss talking to them. It could be going out and having a cup of coffee, which is a commitment that I'm making for myself for this summer and throughout the years to have a slow sip. Just go and sip on some tea or some coffee at a different place. It doesn't have to be huge for you. It could be just anything. Reaching out to that person and first admitting to yourself that you feel overwhelmed with whatever it is, whether it's that you felt overwhelmed with the school year and you know that you don't want to do that the next year, or that you're feeling overwhelmed currently right now in the middle of the summer. And then saying that to someone else and saying, I need this one thing. And can you help me with that? Whatever it is, just pick one, just one. And then decide today what your breathable thing this summer is going to look like. That's it. And now I want you to close your eyes for a second. And I want to tell you that before you do that, you can open your eyes. I did that with the graduation because I wanted to think about what I wanted it to feel like, what wanted the space to feel like, what I wanted the ceremony that we did to feel like. I did that with the brunch. What did I want it to feel like for the moms who were coming? What did I want them to feel when they walked through? What did I want them to feel when they were there? What did I want them to take away? And it was an exercise that I feel like I'm going to do from now on, is that I just closed my eyes and I imagined all of that. So I want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine something with me. What would your homeschool look like if the hard days, the busy seasons, the overwhelming times didn't knock you out the way that they have in the past? What if, when you had a hard day, you already had something in place, whether it was a framework or a mindset or a community that helped you move through it instead of being buried under it? What if you had fewer of those days altogether? Now, I want you to know that a breathable life does not eliminate the hard seasons, the hard days. It just doesn't, because I don't believe that that's going to happen. I don't believe the struggle, the triumphs, the trials are going to be eliminated until we get to heaven, because the Bible tells us that we will have struggles. So that is not the expectation. But I do believe that it can be easier. I do believe that the hard days don't have to knock us out. They don't have to cancel us. I do believe that we can be intentional about what we're going to do when they come, knowing that they will come and that they are less heavy, less hard, because I think about the scripture that talks about that your yoke being light and all that, meaning that to me, you're going to have that, but he is carrying it with you and for you. So you don't have to experience that. So for me, as I think about that we can have this, I really want you to think about what would it feel like to open your calendar and to see some white space and know that you have built some margin on purpose and you are protecting it without any guilt, which is probably one of the most important things, without the guilt of saying, oh, I intentionally put this white space. So when somebody asks to put something there, it's like, oh no, I already have something planned, which is nothing. You could have nothing planned. It's okay. What if the right things were getting done and you knew that they were the right things? And when you saw everything that everybody else was doing, which you're going to see, that you didn't spiral. You just had peace because you knew that what your family needed was what you were doing. And while that thing looked amazing and looked great, you realized and knew that no, this is not for me and it's okay. And what would it mean if you had a support team around your homeschool? People who encouraged you, who you could encourage back, who were doing it with you instead of you watching from the outside, feeling like everyone else has it all figured out, but you're just the person who doesn't. And at the end of the year, when you looked back, what if you could actually say, this was good? This was the best homeschool year that we had. Was it perfect? No. Was it easy? No. But it was good. What if you had things to celebrate because you were intentional about looking for the things to celebrate? And then you had people to celebrate with you. What would that look like? What would it feel like? Well, that's what I want to give you. And that's the other thing that I've been working on is the Breathable Homeschool Cohort. I'm excited about this. And as you know, I do not come on here and try to sell you anything. I hope you know that for as long as we've been doing this. This is not about me selling you something. This is about me offering you an experience that is built around those 5 breathable framework pillars. The things that I have been living out loud, that I have been intentional about normalizing, about making room for margin, about flexibility, about simplifying things, and about pursuing support and making sure that you have that. And as I have worked with clients independently, one-on-one, but I really know and knew for the longest that we needed a group because that, like the support piece is just kind of built into having a group. And as I talk a little bit about them here, I feel like we need to go deeper on all of it together in community because truly I believe that 100% that what we are doing and what as homeschool moms, that once we have that mindset shift about what our homeschool could look like, it changes everything. And that it actually changes it when we're doing it in community. So I have decided to take 12 women in this founding cohort, just 12, because I want to be intentional about it and I want us to feel close knit. And I want you to actually feel the transformation over the 6 weeks. So for the first cohort, we're just going to do 6 weeks so we can get in and we can do it. And it's not that you're just going to learn about it, but I'm actually going to walk you through, have you feel it in your real life, in your homeschool, starting right now. And then when those 6 weeks are done, as a part of it, for being a part of it, that you are going to share, you can share what worked, what didn't work, that you're going to give feedback and we can really refine it together. And so I'm super excited about this. It's been in my spirit a long time, just like how the brunch has been in my spirit for a long time, but I needed to find support. Well, this cohort has been in my spirit for a long time in working with clients and realizing, kind of saying the same things over and over again, loving to do that, but just wanting to build in a community aspect of it and do it together and then get the feedback as a full program. That's what we decided to do. So I know this is a long, long, long episode, but it's been a little while. So I wanted to say all of those things, but I also wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of see what it feels like as I've been going through all of the pillars just in this little bit of time, and I've been doing it for a little while once I realized what a breathable homeschool really felt and looked like. But I wanted to spend some time just talking about what had been happening in my life and also telling you about this because I know that it is transformational, and I know that so much of what we do in the homeschool bleeds into our life. And so I believe it will transform your life. And we're even talking about the celebration piece because that is so huge, so huge, so huge. I say that all the time. And I want you to be able to experience it, but I don't think you can get to just that without all of the pillars. So if you already are ready for it and you want to talk to me, because you've still here, you've listened to the whole thing, you're nodding along with me this whole time. I want you to be one of those 12. If you know that it's for you. If you're not sure, we can have a conversation about it and you can ask me questions about it. But somewhere in your gut, you know. And if you know, I want you to be one of the first 12, the foundational 12 that really helps to shape and grow them. So if this is for you, there is a link in the bio that you can, in the show notes rather, you can either go ahead and sign up. We're starting on July 30th, or you can schedule a call with me and let's talk about it. I just want to thank you for being here today, for listening through all of this. This is probably the longest episode that I've ever done. And I want to thank you for giving me all these minutes and for letting this be the place where you receive something instead of always having to give. And I hope, as always, that every single episode gives you not just a breath of fresh air, but also an opportunity to catch your breath, because that is what matters to me more than you know. Thank you again. And until next time, remember to take a moment to catch your breath.